I know how careful you have learned to be with your heart, how easily it can feel bruised, how quickly it can feel overwhelmed, how deeply things seem to reach inside you. You have wondered if being this sensitive makes you weak, if having a heart that feels so much is something you need to fix or toughen. I want you to hear this clearly. I am gentle with your heart. I do not approach you with force. I do not push where you are tender. I do not rush places that are still healing. I know where you are soft. I know where you have been hurt. I know what makes you pull back and protect yourself. Nothing about your sensitivity scares me. You are not too much for me. You are not fragile in a way that makes me impatient. You are not a problem that needs to be corrected. I come close slowly. I know there are parts of you that flinch easily. Parts that brace for impact even when things seem calm. Parts that learn to expect sharpness, pressure, or disappointment. You do not need to brace here. I am not rough with what is tender. I am not demanding of what is tired. I am not loud with what needs quiet. I am gentle with your heart. You do not need to harden yourself to be safe with me. You do not need to grow thicker skin. You do not need to stop feeling so deeply. Your heart is not a liability here. I know you have been hurt before by things that moved too fast, spoke too loudly, or asked too much. That has made you cautious, watchful, careful with closeness. I understand that. I am not here to break through your defenses. I am not here to expose you before you are ready. I am not here to test how much you can handle. I am here to be gentle. You can let this moment unfold slowly. You do not need to open everything. You do not need to explain your pain. You do not need to be brave. You are safe to be soft here. I am gentle with your heart, and I am not going anywhere. I know how easily your heart feels overwhelmed, how quickly it can feel full, tired, or sore. You have carried this tenderness quietly, often wondering if something about you is too delicate for this world. I want you to rest inside this truth for a moment. Your heart is not too weak. It has been touched deeply because it is alive, because it notices, because it cares. The softness you feel is not a flaw. It is not something that needs to be corrected or strengthened through force. I am gentle with your heart. I know you have learned to protect it, to pull back when things feel uncertain, to stay guarded when emotions begin to rise. You have done that because your heart remembers what it is like to be hurt. I honor that protection. I am not here to remove it abruptly. I am not here to tell you to trust more or feel more or open faster. I am not asking anything from your heart tonight. I am simply being careful with it. You have lived in a world that often moves too quickly, that speaks too loudly, that expects resilience without rest. Over time, that has made your heart tired. You do not need to keep up here. I know how much you have absorbed. Words that lingered longer than they should have. Moments that stayed with you. Tones, silences, disappointments that settled deeper than anyone realized. None of that makes you fragile in a way that is unsafe. It makes you human. I am not rough with what has already been bruised. I am not demanding of what has been carrying weight for too long. I am not careless with the places in you that still ache. I approach slowly. You do not need to brace yourself when I am near. You do not need to prepare for impact. You do not need to tense in anticipation of being pushed past your limits. I know where your limits are. I know the places where you become overwhelmed. The places where too much emotion feels like too much pressure. The places where even gentle things can sometimes feel heavy. I do not cross those places without care. You have been afraid that if you let yourself soften, you will be hurt again. That tenderness invites pain. That being open means being exposed. You are not wrong to be cautious. But here, tenderness is met with gentleness. I am not here to test how much you can handle. I am not here to see how strong you are. I am not here to push you into growth through discomfort. I am here to tend to your heart. You do not need to prove that you can endure more. You do not need to show that you are resilient enough. You do not need to become harder to survive. Your heart does not need to be toughened. It needs care. I know there are moments when your own emotions surprise you, when you feel things more deeply than you expect, when small things touch old places inside you and you wonder why it affects you so much. There is nothing wrong with that. Your heart remembers. Your heart responds. Your heart is alive in ways that cannot be controlled or simplified. I am gentle with that aliveness. You are not being asked to explain yourself. You are not being asked to justify why something hurt. You are not being asked to minimize what you feel. You are allowed to feel exactly what you feel. I am not alarmed by your tears. I am not unsettled by your sensitivity. I am not uncomfortable with the depth of your emotions. I remain calm with you. I know you have been told to toughen up, to not take things so personally, to move on faster. Those messages have taught you to doubt your own heart. You can let those messages rest here. Your heart does not need to be corrected. It needs gentleness, and that is what it receives here. I do not rush healing. I do not pry open wounds. I do not demand vulnerability. I do not force growth. I sit with you quietly. You do not need to open everything tonight. You do not need to feel deeply. You do not need to touch old pain. You can simply let your heart rest in the fact that it is being treated carefully. Nothing sharp is coming. Nothing forceful is approaching. Nothing will be taken from you. I am gentle with your heart. You can breathe without guarding. You can soften without fear. You can exist without preparing for the next hurt. I am here, and I am careful with you. I know there is a part of you that feels full already. Not full in a good way, but full from carrying too much for too long. Too many feelings. Too many disappointments. Too many moments where your heart had to absorb what it did not deserve. You have wondered how much more you can hold. I want you to hear this clearly. Nothing more is being placed on your heart here. I am not adding weight to what is already heavy. I am not bringing new demands. I am not asking you to make room for anything else. I see how tired your heart is. There have been times when you felt like you had to keep accepting things even when you were already overwhelmed. Times when saying no felt unsafe. Times when your heart stayed open even while it was hurting. That has taken a toll. I am gentle with that tiredness. You do not need to stretch yourself further. You do not need to prove that you can handle more. You do not need to show endurance to be worthy of care. Your heart does not need to carry anything extra tonight. I know how easily pressure builds inside you, how responsibility, emotion, and expectation can pile up quietly until everything feels like too much. You have learned to endure silently, even when your heart was asking for rest. I am listening to that request. I am not here to test your capacity. I am not here to see how much you can withstand. I am not here to place lessons inside your pain. I am here to lighten the load. You do not need to take anything in right now. You do not need to reflect. You do not need to process. You do not need to grow through this moment. You are allowed to pause. I know you worry that if you stop carrying, something will fall apart. That if you set things down, you will disappoint someone or lose something important. You can set things down here. Nothing fragile is depending on your endurance tonight. Nothing essential will be lost because you rest. Nothing will break because your heart needs relief. I am holding what you have been holding. Your heart has been strong in quiet ways. Strong by continuing to feel when it would have been easier to shut down. Strong by staying soft in a world that often rewards hardness. That strength does not need to be proven again. You are allowed to stop now. I know you have learned to brace yourself emotionally, to stay ready for impact, to keep your heart slightly guarded even in calm moments. You do not need to brace here. Nothing sudden is coming. Nothing sharp is being introduced. Nothing unexpected will be asked of you. I am careful with your limits. If your heart feels closed tonight, that is okay. If it feels numb, that is okay. If it feels tender and exposed, that is okay too. You do not need to change how you feel. I am not disappointed if you cannot receive comfort easily. I am not discouraged if trust feels slow. I am not impatient if your heart needs time. I move at the pace of your safety. You have been afraid that your heart has reached its limit, that there is nothing left to give, that you are empty in a way that cannot be refilled. I want you to rest from that fear. You are not being drained here. You are not being used. You are not being asked to pour yourself out again. You are being protected. You can let your heart be exactly as it is. Heavy, quiet, tired, uncertain. I am not asking it to open wider. I am not asking it to heal faster. I am not asking it to be brave. I am simply being gentle. Nothing more is required of you tonight. Nothing more is expected. Nothing more is coming. You are safe to rest with what you have. I am here, and I am gentle with your heart. I know there is a quiet fear inside you that does not always have words. A fear that tenderness never lasts, that gentleness fades, that eventually something will change and the softness you feel now will be taken away. You have learned this fear honestly. You have known moments where things felt safe, only to shift suddenly. Moments where care felt real, then disappeared. Moments where you relaxed for just a second, and something hurt you again. Your heart remembers that. So even now, as things feel calmer, part of you stays alert, watching, waiting, preparing for the moment when gentleness might turn into pressure or silence or loss. I see that part of you. I want you to know something without urgency, without demand. My gentleness does not leave when you are weakest. I do not become harsh when you cannot hold yourself together. I do not withdraw when you are tired. I do not disappear when you are unsure. I remain. You have experienced gentleness that came with conditions. Care that lasted only as long as you were easy to be around. Softness that existed only when you were strong enough to carry it. That has taught you to stay guarded, even in peaceful moments. I understand that guarding, but I am not gentle with an expiration date. You do not need to maintain a certain state to keep me near. You do not need to stay calm, hopeful, or composed. You do not need to protect this moment by behaving a certain way. Nothing about your weakness pushes me away. If your heart collapses inward, I stay. If your emotions become heavy and tangled, I stay. If you cannot explain yourself, I stay. My gentleness is not fragile. It does not depend on your stability. It does not depend on your mood. It does not depend on your understanding. It is steady. I know you expect shifts, sudden changes in tone, a moment where the softness ends and you are left alone again. You are allowed to expect that. It makes sense. But here, there is no hidden turn. I am not leading you somewhere unsafe. I am not drawing you close only to pull away. I am not offering comfort that will later be replaced with distance. I am gentle with your heart at its most unguarded. You do not need to keep part of yourself closed just in case. You do not need to ration how much you relax. You do not need to stay halfway braced. Nothing bad follows this softness. I know how deeply you feel change, how quickly your heart notices shifts in energy, attention, or presence. You sense when things become less warm, less safe. That sensitivity is part of why you fear loss. But that same sensitivity can feel steadiness too. And I am steady with you, even if tomorrow feels uncertain. Even if your life outside this moment feels unstable. Even if there are questions you cannot answer. My gentleness is not tied to circumstances. You are not borrowing peace that must be paid back later. You are not receiving care that will be withdrawn. You are not being comforted only to be corrected. I am not preparing to harden. You can let yourself soften without keeping score. You can rest without planning how to survive the next change. You can breathe without waiting for the other shoe to drop. I am here in the same way when you feel strong and when you feel undone. You have been afraid that if you truly let yourself rest, the fall afterward will hurt more. That hope makes disappointment sharper. You are not wrong for learning that. But here, rest does not lead to collapse. You are not being lifted only to be dropped. You are not being soothed only to be tested. You are being held. I know you sometimes pull back the moment something feels good, as if enjoying it too much might jinx it, as if letting yourself relax will make the loss unbearable. You can enjoy this softness without fear. It is not a fragile moment. It is not temporary kindness. It is not something you must protect by staying small. I am gentle with your heart when it trusts and when it doubts. If you wake tomorrow and feel nothing, I remain gentle. If you wake tomorrow and feel overwhelmed, I remain gentle. If this moment fades from your awareness, I remain gentle. Nothing you do dissolves this care. You do not need to remember these words for them to be true. You do not need to hold on to this feeling. I am not leaving when you look away. You are safe to sink into this moment fully, safe to rest deeply, safe to stop monitoring the room for danger. Nothing is about to change. I am here, and I am gentle with your heart. You have spent so long protecting your heart that even rest can feel unfamiliar. Even calm can feel suspicious. Even kindness can make part of you stay alert, watching closely for what might follow. I know how deeply that vigilance lives in you. It did not come from nowhere. It came from learning that safety could change without warning. From moments where you trusted and were hurt. From times when you relaxed and then had to gather yourself again. Your heart learned to stay ready. I am gentle with that readiness. I am not asking you to drop your guard suddenly. I am not telling you to trust blindly. I am not asking you to forget what you have lived through. I am simply offering you a place where you do not need to protect yourself. Here, nothing is coming at you. Here, nothing is hidden behind softness. Here, nothing is waiting to demand more. You do not need to stay alert in this moment. I know your body may still hold tension even as you listen. Shoulders slightly raised. Breath a little shallow. Muscles prepared to respond. You do not need to force that tension away. I am patient with how slowly safety arrives. You have been strong for a long time. Strong in ways no one noticed. Strong by holding yourself together quietly. Strong by absorbing things that were never meant for you to carry. That strength does not need to be active right now. You can let it rest. Nothing will take advantage of your softness here. Nothing will slip past your guard if you lower it. Nothing will harm you because you are not watching closely. I am watching over you. You are not responsible for keeping yourself safe in this moment. You are not required to manage every feeling or anticipate every shift. You are allowed to be unprepared. I know that sounds unfamiliar. You have learned that being unprepared leads to pain. That vigilance is what keeps you intact. That if you let your guard down, you will be hurt again. You learned that because you had to. But here, unguarded does not mean unprotected. I am gentle with your heart when it finally grows tired of standing watch. You can let your breath deepen naturally. You can let your body sink where it is supported. You can allow the room around you to fade into the background. Nothing needs your attention. You do not need to stay half awake. You do not need to keep listening for danger. You do not need to hold yourself ready. This moment is not fragile. I am not going to suddenly ask something of you. I am not going to change the tone. I am not going to withdraw warmth once you relax. I remain steady. If your guard stays up, that is okay. I do not push against it. If it begins to soften on its own, that is okay too. There is no right way to rest. I know how exhausting it has been to always be the one protecting your own heart, to never fully relax, to always carry responsibility for your own safety. You do not have to carry that responsibility right now. You are allowed to be held without watching the door. Nothing about this moment needs your effort. Nothing about this presence requires your management. I am here in a way that does not demand your strength. If your thoughts begin to slow, that is fine. If they drift, that is fine. If they stay busy, that is fine too. You are not doing this wrong. I am gentle with your heart even when it does not know how to receive gentleness. You have been afraid that if you stop protecting yourself, you will lose who you are. That vigilance is part of your identity now. You are still you when you rest. You are still you when you soften. You are still you when you are not bracing. Nothing essential disappears when you let yourself be cared for. You can allow this moment to hold you without questioning it. You can let yourself be here without scanning for what comes next. There is nothing coming. Only quiet, only steadiness, only gentleness. I am here, and you do not need to protect yourself from me. You have come to the quiet end of this moment. There is nothing more you need to listen for. Nothing more you need to understand. Nothing more you need to hold together. You are here now. I want you to know that my gentleness does not stop when the words fade. It does not disappear when your attention drifts. It does not leave when you fall asleep. I remain. You do not need to stay present to keep me near. You do not need to keep listening. You do not need to hold on to this feeling. You can let go. Your heart has done enough for today. Enough feeling. Enough holding. Enough protecting. It does not need to stay awake. I am gentle with your heart even as it rests. You may notice your body beginning to soften on its own. Breathing slowing. Muscles loosening. Thoughts becoming less defined. You do not need to guide any of this. It is safe to drift. Nothing important will be missed if you sleep. Nothing fragile will be left unattended. Nothing will go wrong because you rest. I am watching over you. You are not alone in the quiet. You are not alone in the dark. You are not alone when your mind finally lets go. I am here through the night. If worries try to return, you do not need to push them away. You do not need to solve them. You do not need to engage with them. You can let them pass. They do not require your energy right now. Your heart does not need to stay alert. It does not need to stay open. It does not need to stay guarded. Can simply be. I know how rarely your heart gets to rest without being needed. How often it feels like it must be available, responsive, ready. Tonight it does not. Tonight it is allowed to be held without doing anything in return. I am gentle with your heart in its most unguarded state. Gentle when it is quiet. Gentle when it is tired. Gentle when it finally stops trying. You do not need to worry about tomorrow. You do not need to prepare yourself. You do not need to gather strength before you sleep. Tomorrow will be met with the same gentleness. Nothing about you needs fixing overnight. Nothing about you needs to change before morning. You are already enough to be cared for. As you rest, you are not becoming weaker. You are not losing ground. You are not falling behind. You are being restored in ways you do not have to witness. You can trust the stillness. I am not leaving when you sleep. I am not stepping away when your awareness fades. I am not distant when your thoughts grow quiet. I stay close. You are safe to sleep deeply, safe to rest fully, safe to let your heart be exactly as it is. I am gentle with your heart. I have always been. I will continue to be. You can sleep now. You are held. You are watched over. You are not alone.